Okay, no further questions. I'll move to item 4.4, our legislative report. And we have Cheryl Axley here. And Al Ronan actually made his way up here tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's amazing, but he found it.
I've been up here many times, and I'm always telling you, I'm the former Republican senator, part of your lobbying team, and I had a bipartisan team, so I thought I'd bring one of them tonight. Al Ronan, he's been working, he has a passion for higher education, education in general. Former Democrat House member.
Is he a former Democrat or
Former.
No, I will guarantee you, he's still a Democrat. He's a former House member. But he could give you, I'm going to turn this over to him in a minute. I just wanted to let you know we were able, it's a whole different environment in Springfield these days. We were able to get you funding and MAP grants through the end of the year. And the big thing is in the capital piece of the budget, you are one of only 4 community colleges to get Grayslip funded. So that was a big team effort, and it took a lot of work on a lot of different people's behalf. But the big talk is now, how come College of Lake County got their project in? Where's it? So they don't want to know how it was done. But it was a good strategy that was implemented through the end. So we were very fortunate on that. We understand that the Trustees Association and the President's Council is looking for a big piece of legislation to start the ball moving for next year. That being to enable either a limited or we don't know how to go for nursing for the 4-year program. Al has been very instrumental on that with other colleges, and it's about time. So we look forward to working on that. Al?
Al, before you speak, I'll just say that Rich Anderson is the chair of the ICCTA committee that is working, well, at first at the whole baccalaureate level, but now they focus down on the BSN. And the president's in their role, and we'll be coordinating with you, of course, on that, and anxious to hear about that and other initiatives, but we'll be kind of coordinating that whole effort.
It's a great concept, obviously. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, I'm the guy behind the curtain that occasionally works on your issues. A little bit about the breadth of the clientele that we represent. We represent 15 municipalities, 6 community colleges, 9 school districts. All the school districts are disadvantaged school districts. I think anyone from Illinois realizes that we have a horrible funding mechanism, how we don't fund education. And so we've made that one of our charges, and we've been successful in the last 2 sessions to get stipends for disadvantaged school districts. Obviously not just our 9, but the other 150 disadvantaged school districts. But community colleges are really the cutting edge of education, higher education in Illinois. There's no question in my mind. And I never went to a community college. When I completed my master's degree, I had the good fortune to go teach at College of DuPage, which was my first eye-opening experience of teaching in a wonderful institution, in spite of Dr. Bruder, who actually hired me to work on our first charge when he was at Harper. And he was committed to the 4-year educational program. And it was a gory battle for 2 years, but we ended up having a partnership with Northern Illinois University, a very reluctant partnership on behalf of Northern, but it was something that is long overdue. Higher education really needs to focus on the students first, and then everything else comes second. We know that with boards like this and institutions like this, you're providing a wonderful service. But we now have $1 trillion in college student debt in America. $1 trillion. Okay, so that we have to start figuring out how to have accessible, affordable higher education. and community colleges are at the forefront of that, because you get a great 2-year education and it's affordable. Springfield, completely broken. It is, I've had the pleasure of being there for 45 years. I have never seen the chaos and the battles that we fight on a daily basis. It is not because of one individual or one party. The system is broken right now. And that's why last year higher education got 29% funding. Totally unacceptable. And it's because we haven't had a workable budget. This year we're fortunate that we do have a budget that lasts till December 31st, but then we have to start over again. It's not the way to run a business, it's not the right way to run a government, and it's really a huge disservice to the people in the state of Illinois. Our focus is our clients. That's who we work for. I told you about our public sector. We also have a large segment of private sector clients that we also represent, but they tend to take care of themselves, and we just make sure that they get a level playing field. But with the broken system, we are diligent in making sure that our clients get a fair shake. The money that we were able to put in the budget last year for you was absolutely needed and will be spent wisely on a program that makes sense. And I regret that we weren't able to get it done for some of the other colleges, but at least now the Capital Development Board has sent out questionnaires to those other colleges and saying, give us the justification. And next week I go in and meet with some of the leadership at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity because one of our colleges, Kankakee College, their grant came out of DCEL, so it was just a little extra work for us to try to move that thing forward. But happy to answer any questions. We are committed to making sure that you get a fair shake. And one of the questions we always get from the public sector folks and from the general public is, why would you have a lobbyist? Why would a government institution have a lobbyist? Not only is the state of Illinois broken, but I've been there for 45 years. Nothing's fair. So don't ever think that the decisions that come out of Springfield are based on fairness or anything except the loudest voice with the best message tends to get some kind of relief. And that's why people bring on lobbyists. In an ideal world, you wouldn't need people like us. Illinois is far from an ideal world.
Al, can you talk a little bit about capital? And I mean, there really doesn't seem to be any new capital recently, but yet old projects are getting, reallocated and whatever. But there's money going in from video gaming all over the state, and that's going into a pot. Is that pot growing and waiting for a capital bill, or what's the status of that?
The capital bill that we were successful in helping get passed 7 years ago now was a $31 billion program. And that doesn't mean that in 7 years we have raised and spent $31 billion. You bond everything. Right. So that you're talking of 20, 25, and 30-year commitments on those bonds. You're absolutely right. All the revenue sources that were identified are still generating revenue. But that needs to go to pay off the bonds. The $31 billion has been allocated, but the current administration decided to stop many projects. And I wish I could give you the rationale behind that, but I can't. Well, it's an irrational decision. When you stop projects, you raise the cost of the projects. I mean, Bruce Ronan a very, very smart man, and he really knows what he's doing. But I just don't see the outcomes, and I don't blame him alone. We have a democratically controlled General Assembly that I served in for a long time, but that was a long time ago. We used to get things done because we had a much more bipartisan attitude 25 years ago, and that's missing, not only in Illinois but around the country. I don't know if you notice there's a presidential election going on right now, and there seems to be some partisan fervor in that situation. But the money to fund every project for Lake County and every other community college is there. And hopefully, after we're done with the November election, we can get back to business and continue those projects. I mean, there's some horror stories I can tell you. Big hole in the ground right in front of the administration building in Kankakee. Project at Harper that's dying on the vines. And I could go on and on, but I don't want to bore you with details.
Fred? Other questions for Al?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you allocate the time that you spend on your clients? I mean, for community colleges to your private clients. How do you allocate the time?
That's called being the boss. We have a really good staff of people. We have 13 people who work for my firm. I work for Cheryl on this project. And that's done because we work very closely together as well as all the other folks. And we thought it was appropriate for College of Lake County to have someone like Cheryl be the lead. And I'm proud to work for her on this for this campus and in these projects. But how we allocate the time, it's really based on setting an agenda every legislative session. We monitor every piece of legislation that's introduced. And that helps set the workload. Because once you start to see some good bills, you say these are things that we really need to work on and try to get passed. And then you see the bad bills. And you say, we really got to kill those bad bills.
There are 3 times as many bad guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here, the ridiculous situation at College of DuPage generated dozens of overreach on behalf of legislators who said, you know what, we got to blow everything up. No, there's an incident that happened there that should not have happened. But you know what, you don't pass onerous legislation that makes it impossible for good community colleges. And I think College DuPage is a good community college. I'm not criticizing. There was one incident of an individual at a board that was dysfunctional. Happens. I'll show you some municipalities where it's even more interesting. But bottom line is, our workload is we have enough manpower and women power and smart people to get the job done. But when we're in session, it's a very, very difficult task.
What might help the board a little bit is just to talk about how we work together. So Cheryl is the point of contact with me in terms of internal strategy. Of course, I'm talking with Nick Kelly, RS, and keeping him up to speed. Then sometimes Cheryl, Al, and I will kind of build the strategy together like we did for this campus funding and decide what legislators we would address, etc. Now, it doesn't always work. I had some assignments last time to talk to a few legislators around the whole funding,
Right.
which didn't go through, but the capital was very successful, and as Cheryl said, not only were we one of 4 projects, but we got more funds than the other 3 combined.
Yeah, you got over 50, yeah, about 53% of the total allocation.
And that just doesn't go to our friends here who are doing this, it also goes to our legislators who really stepped up. But that strategy was something that we developed together about who to talk to and who could make that happen. And we're going to, on October 18th, have a ribbon cutting for that science building. That's a soft ribbon cutting, but it's mostly to thank those legislators who really stepped up to get us those funds.
Yeah, and Dr. Weber's right. We can't do the work without having the professional staff work with us to develop the strategy and implement the strategy. There are 14 legislators that have a piece of the College of Lake County. 13 of them signed the letter that we were sending to Governor Rauner.
Only one did not sign.
Only one did not
And
sign.
that was Representative Scott Drew.
I should say as the other piece of that, so the board knows, I'm always talking with the chair about that.
Of course.
And I know some of you stepped up, but I know the chair made a lot of calls to the various legislators. And so those relationships that you have with the legislators are one of the important keys to it too, because you're elected officials.
Right. And I think our success is based on that we have a very strong team, a real commitment to get the job done, and building projects are really something that is so needed in America today. I mean, I can't imagine what we really need to fund all of the infrastructure needs of America. I mean, I've heard the estimate of $4 trillion. I mean, I don't know. It's just, we are falling farther and farther behind, and that's unacceptable.
Any questions? Any other questions for Al?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank Nick as well. He's always working behind the scenes, so thank you, Nick. And Jerry. Thank everyone for your hard work. Al, glad to see you come back.
Yes, I can't wait.
Okay.
Are we dismissed?
Nice to see you.
That's exactly God's country.
That's right, that's right. It's scary up here.